My name is Kajal. My father died a few months ago. Only my mother lived with me, and I had completed my studies. We were middle-class people. A lot of money had been spent on my father's treatment. Even after that, he could not survive. After my father's death, the condition of our house became very bad. My mother was ill. Now she could not work in people's houses, so I had to do something to run the house. I was not able to understand what work I should do. The condition of the house was getting worse day by day. Money was also needed for mother's medicines. But I was not able to understand anything. Then, forced by the circumstances, I decided to teach tuition to children. Due to our locality being small, I was not getting the kind of work I wanted anywhere. I was looking for a job where only women work, but there was no such work available nearby. Mostly men were working everywhere, and my mother was strongly against me doing a job. She wanted me to stay in the house even if we die of hunger. I sat down quietly, as per her instructions, but the deteriorating conditions at home and my mother not getting medicines on time, all this had troubled me and my mother a lot. Slowly, we were on the verge of starving. As soon as my father passed away, our lives were devoid of happiness and peace. People around us were also poor like us. I wanted to teach tuition to the children around us, but I knew that people in my neighborhood could not pay me the high fees for teaching tuition, and I could not survive with less money because my expenses were also high. Then one of my friends advised me that why don't I give home tuition? When I go out of my house to teach children in other people's homes, I will get more money. Due to the current situation, most parents prefer to keep their children at home, so they pay more money to any teacher for coming to their home. When I searched more about this, everyone advised me that it would be better for me to go home and teach, and I would also get more money for this work. I was ready to do this work, but my mother would not let me go out of the house. With great difficulty, I convinced her for this work, because now we were struggling to get food, so I had to do something. Now my mother also agreed to my point after giving up. I talked to a couple of people I knew that if anyone needs home tuition, they should contact me. Soon I got the answer to this when I got an offer of tuition from a good and well-off family. Initially, I did not know what things I had to put in front of them as a condition. I had only told them that I am the sole breadwinner of my family, and I am doing this job out of compulsion because my father has just passed away. I need money a lot, but I will teach their children very well. They will not find a better teacher than me. Perhaps this was my mistake that I started telling people about my weakness. My job had already started. I used to go from house to house and teach children from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. I had tuitions in 5 houses for 1 hour each. One of these children, whom I used to teach from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., was named Suman. In the beginning, Suman used to talk to me in a very strange way. There was only one woman in that house. She was Suman's mother, and he was the only boy. Suman was quite happy-natured. He was the only son of his parents. Apart from the mother and son, no one else lived in the house. Suman was 12 years old and studied in the 5th class. His mother told me that Suman was their most loved and only son. His father works in a big company, so he keeps visiting other cities. I thought that it was a good thing. This family was very rich, and I was getting a good tuition fee here. 25 days had passed since I started teaching Suman. Suddenly, one day I noticed that whenever I gave homework to Suman, there were strange sketches drawn on his homework copy. Some strange lines were created. I never understood the meaning of all these, but I wanted to know their meaning. I thought that maybe Suman does this work in his free time. But one day, suddenly, I saw strange shapes drawn on one of his copies. When I told this to his mother, she said that her son is interested in becoming an artist. He wants to become an artist. But his mother wants her son to get higher education, so that later on, she can decide what kind of business he wants to do. I told her that your thinking is very good, but I believe that children should be allowed to do whatever they are interested in. If he wants to become an artist, then you should support him. Hearing this, Suman's mother said that you should do only as much as I have told you. I don't know why he got angry when I said this. And he told me, you should stop Suman from doing such things in future. Suddenly, I started seeing anger and bitterness in Suman's mother's words, although she was a woman of very good behavior. But I don't know why she got so angry today. For the time being, I did not pay much attention to what she said, and explained to Suman that, for now, you should complete your studies till inter, and then see what you become. Right now, you are a child. Right now, you should only focus on studies. Suman did not speak much. Perhaps he did not want anything more than himself, and neither did he like to talk to anyone much. Perhaps this was his habit. After that day, I did not see any such line or any such thing on his copies or books. It was Monday when I was leaving to go to my house. Suddenly I felt as if someone called me from behind. But as soon as I turned back and looked, there was no one behind. But this voice seemed to be of some child. It felt as if Suman, whom I used to come to teach every day, had called me. The next day, as soon as I came to Suman's house to teach tuition, I was surprised to see that Suman had a very high fever since last night. Her mother told me that her son is not well. He is having fever since last night. He will not take tuition today. I told her mother that I will meet him once and ask about his health. Saying this, I started going towards his room. But her mother stopped me by answering in a very strange way. She said that he is sleeping, and you should not come tomorrow also. Come after 2 days and teach him. Although I found Suman's mother's behavior very strange, but I quietly left her house and was thinking that till yesterday, Suman's health was absolutely fine. Maybe her health has deteriorated due to the weather. When I came home, seeing my mother coughing, I remembered that I forgot to bring medicines for her. I left for the medical store from the door of the house itself. As soon as I started coming down from the medical store, after buying the medicine, suddenly my foot twisted and I could not control myself, and I fell down the stairs of the medical store. When I raised my head and looked, I was surprised because Suman's mother was standing in front of me, whose son I used to teach tuitions. This woman was from a very rich family. Then why was she buying medicine from this medical store? Because the store where I had come to buy medicine was a simple medical store. I could not stop myself from asking Suman's mother. I asked her, "Why are you here? Everything is fine, right?" But perhaps she felt bad about my question. She got shocked and said, "Why can't I come here? Is there any restriction on my coming?" I handled the matter and said, No, I was just saying that I have never seen you here before today. Actually, I keep coming here to get my mother's medicine. You have come here today. What happened? Is Suman's health fine?" On this, Suman's mother said, "You talk too much. Talk less." Saying this, she passed by me. I found this woman's behavior very strange. How could this woman behave like this with me? Because before this, she used to live very well with me. But for the last 2 days, her behavior was becoming very bitter with me. I came back to my home. When I came home, my mother saw me lost in thoughts and asked, "What happened, Kajal? Is there any problem?" I said, "Nothing, Mom. I teach tuition to a child. I just met her at the medical store." Her behavior was very harsh with me. I don't know why rich people are like this. They start earning money and get busy in all the luxuries of their house, while they leave their children to get entangled in life. So my mother looked at me and said, "Oh, my daughter, this is the thing about wealth. Big people are like this. Once they get greedy for wealth, they have to leave all relationships behind. There is a restlessness that they should get money somehow." I told my mother, "I know, Mom, that money has a lot of power. But what is this restlessness that it feels better to become an enemy of your own children? If someone else pays attention to these people's children or becomes their ocean, then these rich people cannot even tolerate that." My mother smiled and said, "This is the thing, my daughter. I'm also trying to explain to you that these rich people want to make people work for them along with wealth. The motive of these people is that if we get wealth, then we can rule over other people also." I said, "Mummy, God made us poor. By the grace of God, we did not have any problem in front of Father, but after Father's death, the condition of our house became bad. We may have become poor, but God has taught us to value relationships." My mother smiled and held my hand and said, "Okay, you take rest now. I will bring food for you. You must be tired." Time was passing like this. It was Sunday when I saw that Suman, whom I am teaching tuition, was continuously looking at a book very carefully. I looked at him angrily and said, "What are you doing? Your attention is not towards studies. I have been asking you the same question for a long time, and you are not answering my question. Suman said, "Madam, if I give you an answer, you will be happy, but this will not be right for me, and it will have a bad effect on my health." I said to Suman, "Suman, what do you mean by your words? And why do you talk so deeply? Right now, you are a child and you should only focus on your studies and sports, not on such big things. I'm not able to understand what you're saying. You tell me in simple words what you want to say." Then Suman told me that I do not want to tell you anything. This is enough for today. I am tired. We will study the rest tomorrow. I said, Suman, "But your homework is not yet complete." To which Suman said, "I told you that this is enough for today. Why are you arguing with me so much?" I said, "Whatever it is, I'm your teacher, and a teacher is like a mother. You cannot talk to me like this. I do not like it." To which Suman looked at me angrily and said, "Beware if you put yourself in my mother's place. You are very nice, and I respect you, but that doesn't mean that you should try to become my mother, because you can never replace my mother." I looked at Suman carefully. Her eyes and her tongue were not speaking the same language. I became silent and took my bag and started to leave from there. Then suddenly, I came face to face with Suman's mother. I saw her and said, "Namaste." She replied to my greeting and said, "Here is your 1 month's advance fee, and don't come here tomorrow because we have to go somewhere. Come day after tomorrow." I said softly that you're right, but your son's exams are starting from the day after tomorrow, and I think he needs to study. If Suman's holidays keep on coming, and she keeps getting gaps like this, then whatever she has studied, she will forget everything, and her marks will also not be good. Hearing my words, Suman's mother suddenly got angry and said, "Hey girl, what has happened to you? My son is not studying medicine from you that he will be harmed if he takes a day off. He is still a child and is in a small class. It does not matter so much to children. You do not need to become his mother too much. You do not need to think so deeply." Hearing Suman's mother's words, I felt embarrassed. This woman speaks so bitterly. Leaving me there, Suman's mother had gone inside. All the way I kept thinking this and made up my mind that in future, I will never speak in any matter of rich people. If Suman fails, then so be it, but I will regret that Suman is very intelligent and could have achieved success by paying a little attention to her. But her mother did not want this, so despite my many efforts, nothing could happen. I started moving forward when suddenly I felt again that someone has called me. I was about to sit in the rickshaw when suddenly I felt again that someone has called me. This call made me feel suffocated. I stopped the rickshaw and turned back and looked here and there, left and right, everywhere. But I did not feel any person calling me like that. I don't know why I was repeatedly feeling as if someone was calling me, and this used to happen only when I was leaving Suman's house after teaching tuition. Maybe my mother was waiting for me at home, because at this time it was 8 o'clock in the night. That's why I felt like this. But my heart was not free from the thought that all this was just my misconception. Life was going on like this when suddenly a big storm came in my life. I had never thought that such a time could come in my life. The next day, when I went to Suman's house to teach her, I was surprised to see a man sitting there. The man was looking at me with very strange eyes. I fixed my dupatta because I was feeling very strange. It seemed from the eyes of this man that he was not a good man. I had never seen this man in this house before today. I don't know who he was. Seeing me thinking, Suman said to me, "Madam, this is my father, who mostly goes to other cities for work." I felt some relief after hearing this. Otherwise, I was scared that who is this person who is present in the house at this time? And if someone else was sitting here with such carelessness, he would have also started suspecting like me. At present, those people were sitting there. I asked Suman to bring the bag and went to another room. It had been 3 months since I started teaching Suman in this house, so I knew very well that if they were sitting in the living room, I could go to some other room and teach. I was teaching Suman when suddenly that man came and sat in the room. I found it very strange that he was sitting there. He said hello to me, to which I replied politely. The man said, "Does my son bother you? I have seen his progress report. He has got very good marks. You are really teaching my child very well. Our money is being used by paying you the fees." I replied to this man, "Yes, you are right. I take money for this only. He looked at me with deep eyes, which I recognized. In the meantime, Suman's mother came inside the room. She talked to her husband, and then she took her husband out of the room. I could not understand the actions of these people. I don't know what they think of themselves. Suman and I were sitting and studying when that man came to that room again and said, "Teacher, if you need anything, then you can tell me without hesitation." I smiled and said, "No, I don't need anything. But if you go away from this room, then it will be easy for me to teach Suman." Hearing my words, suddenly, the color of that man's face changed. Maybe he felt bad about what I said. But what could I do? I was getting disturbed in teaching. But still, he silently controlled himself on my words, because I was helpless. I knew very well how to protect my dignity. I was looking towards the same door from where Suman's father had left, when suddenly I heard the same call, which I had heard 2-3 times before. I turned around, and I was almost about to scream. The child whom I was teaching tuition was calling me in this manner. While I was scared of Suman, I said to Suman, "What has happened to you? I am sitting right in front of you. Why are you calling me?" So Suman said, "I'm calling you because you can help me." Suman was about to say something further, when suddenly his mother came inside the room, and Suman became silent while speaking. I understood very well that he had noticed that he had become silent since his mother had come. Even though I wanted to, I could not ask him what he wanted to say to me. Suman's mother looked at me and said, "Please, teacher, don't feel bad. My husband and I want to spend time with our son. My husband has come home after a long time, so can you come tomorrow? This is enough for today." I was also mentally disturbed, so I wanted to leave Suman's house as soon as possible. But as soon as I left the house, I felt the same call again. This time, I looked back, and I was sure that there was definitely something fishy, because Suman, whom I used to teach tuition, was standing on the roof of his house and looking at me. I understood that it was not someone else who called me every time, but Suman himself. I had decided one thing, that I would find out the purpose of this call tomorrow at any cost. But this thing had to be hidden from Suman's mother, because Suman used to remain very quiet in front of her. Maybe he has become like this because of his father's distance, because today I saw him smiling with his father. Whereas that child remains more serious, maybe his mother behaves very harshly with him after his father left. Then this thought also started coming in my mind, that it is possible that that woman may not be Suman's real mother, but could also be her stepmother. What did I know much about these people? Only that Suman's father used to work in another city. He mostly used to stay away from his son, and his mother herself works in a company, and in these 3 months, I also did not see any relative or any neighbor coming to their house. I was the only one who used to go to their house to teach their son. Apart from me, I had not seen anyone in this house. Sometimes I realize that maybe all these rich people are the same. They are busy with themselves and never pay attention to their children. Maybe these rich people like to keep a distance from each other. So many questions were running through my mind, just because of a call. I could not understand that even if I knew something about these people or understood the meaning of this call, what could I do at the most? Now I had to wait for the next day, that too if I got a chance. Then I would talk to Suman about this, because whenever I tried to talk to Suman, her mother would already come to the room. Her mother was always on her son's head. She felt that her son wanted to tell me something, so she kept an eye on us as much as possible. I had thought that all this would not be easy. It could also be that Suman is in some trouble and is trying to get help from me. I was making all kinds of plans in my mind, and I had forgotten what the reality was, because things don't appear as they are, and things don't happen as they appear. But I was deeply attached to Suman. I could feel that he was in some trouble and he needed my help, but I didn't know what his problem was. I was not aware of this. The next day, I went to his house before time, and I quickly taught my other students too. When I went to Suman's house, I felt happy because today he was all alone at his home. His parents had gone out for shopping. When I was convinced that there was no one in the house except Suman, I quickly went to Katan and told him that now, you quickly tell me the truth, that why do you call me in such a soft voice while leaving my house? And if you lie to me, then when your mother comes here, I will complain about you to her. I will tell her how you call me from behind me." At this time, while talking, I looked at Suman's face carefully. The color of his face was changing. He looked at me very seriously and said that if you complain about me to my mother and tell her all this, then she will not believe you and will also fire you from this job like the previous 2 tuition teachers. As much as I know about you, you should read more about your salary instead of taking interest in my life. I was surprised to hear such big things from such a small child, but still my question remained the same. I said to him, "Tell me straight away, why do you call me?" So he replied to my question in a very strange way. He said, "Just understand this much, that just like you get paid for teaching me tuitions, I also get paid for calling you." I looked at him angrily and said, "Have you gone mad? What kind of things are you talking about? What am I asking you and what answer are you giving me?" On this, Suman said, "This is what I am also saying, that you have come here to teach me. I don't know what you are calling me, leaving studies. Now I am not able to understand what you are talking about." I felt like banging my head. How was this small child keeping me engaged in such talks? Before I could ask him any more questions, suddenly I heard the sound of a car horn. This sound of the car was of Suman's parents' car, which meant that her parents had come. I opened the books and started teaching her and shook all these things out of my mind. These people were also making me mad. Maybe their only purpose was to keep others engaged in their talks. After teaching her, I came back to my home. But after coming home, I was not getting peace. I kept thinking the whole night that I am well aware of Suman's behavior, but there was definitely something wrong with her father. Her father used to stare at me with a very strange gaze. His gaze was piercing me. My doubt was confirmed when I went to Suman's house the next day to take my salary. I was scared to see Suman's father instead of her mother, but I was surprised to see her father's expression. At that time, I had some work. My mother's health had deteriorated, for which I needed the salary. I told the same thing to Suman's father. I was just going to finish my talk when suddenly someone put a handkerchief on my mouth and I lost my senses. When I regained consciousness, I was shocked to see that my hands and legs were tied. I was very scared to see my hands and legs tied. But as soon as I recognized this house, I was sure that I was definitely trapped in some big trouble and had become a victim of the conspiracy of these people. Because this was none other than Suman's house, it meant that her family members had imprisoned me. But why? What did these people want to do with me? Due to the pain in my waist, I realized that I was tied at one place for a long time. I don't know what my mother would be doing. She must be worried for me because it was nighttime, and if I got even a little late in going home, my mother used to get worried, and her health was also bad. Bringing the thought of my mother in mind, I started moving my hands and legs. Then suddenly, the door opened, and I was surprised to see the person coming. It was none other than Suman. My mouth was tied with a bandage. I could not make any kind of sound. But today, I don't know why that 14-year-old kid was feeling very bad for me. His eyes, his movements, and his way of looking at me were showing me a lot. If I had lost courage, I would have suffered a great loss. I started thrashing him, but he smiled and sat in front of me and removed the tape from my mouth. I said in one breath, "Why have you kept me imprisoned here? What is your problem? Let me go. My mother must be worried about me." Hearing my words, he started laughing in a strange way and said, "Hey, teacher, why are you in such a hurry? Today I have got a chance to talk to you leisurely." He tried to touch my face, but I turned my face to the other side. His attempt failed. I felt very bad about his way of speaking, not because he had imprisoned me, but because he used to show a lot of manners during tuitions. He was definitely ill-mannered and arrogant, but he used to talk to me very well, and used to choose his words very well. Talking seriously was a special style of his personality. But at this time, everything was completely different. He was standing in front of me like a big man. Understanding the situation, I asked him, "What do you want? And what have you done?" "I am your teacher, in place of your mother." Hearing my words, he started clapping and laughing loudly like a madman, and said, "Teacher G, why are you calling me mummy? I don't consider my mother as my mother, and you are going to become my mother. Why have you been imprisoned here? You will know in a while." I felt like someone should come here to help me. I don't know what was happening to me. I had never even thought about all this. I was thinking all this in my heart and was begging God for help. After a long time, the door opened, and seeing the person coming, I felt that the situation was out of my control. The father of this child was also staring at me in the same manner. Firstly, I was not prepared for this situation, and secondly, I knew very well what he was going to do to me. I don't know what was forcing me to gather courage and keep my hope alive. As soon as Suman's father came, I folded my hands and asked him to please let me go from here. Why have you imprisoned me here? He also said the same thing that you will know soon. Saying this, both father and son walked out of the room. As soon as they left, suddenly 2 big rats came into the room, seeing which I screamed. Those rats were paying attention to me and probably were hungry for many days. They started biting me. I was screaming loudly. The sound of my screams was reaching them, but both father and son were sitting like stones. The sound of TV was coming from outside. This thing was making me very restless, that what did these people want to do? When I shook and fell from the burning chair, those rats ran away immediately. These rats had injured my leg. This pain was not bearable for me. I had not yet gone through one pain when the door opened again and both father and son entered inside. They had 2 big bottles in their hands, which had a lot of black rats inside them. Seeing this, I started screaming with all my might. I thought that I would die now. My body was completely drenched in sweat. As soon as these people opened the bottle, I suddenly fainted. The next time when I opened my eyes, I found myself at my home. For a long time, I could not understand what had happened. Suddenly, due to the pain in my head, I realized that a bandage was tied on my head. When I opened my eyes, my mother was sitting in front of me, and right next to her was a woman who was Suman's mother, the wife of that cruel man, and the mother of that cruel child. As soon as I saw her, I started screaming loudly while seeing my condition. Both my mother and that woman got worried. Suman's mother tried to hold me by holding my hand, but I shook off her hand and hugged my mother and sat down. I was scared of this woman, as if she would throw rats at me. This woman folded her hands in front of me and said, "I am very ashamed. My husband is a mental patient, but I don't know what problem he has that he gets very happy by troubling people. My husband is being treated in another country. I think he has recovered, but my son also has a similar disease. Whatever my son did to you, when I came back from the market, I heard your screaming voice. You had fainted. I brought you here, forgive me. I have sent my husband and son to a mental asylum. They will be treated completely there. I am very ashamed. I have come to give you some money. This is for your treatment. I hope you will forgive me. In future, you will never have any trouble because of us." After Suman's mother left, I kept trembling with fear for a long time. For some time I lived in this fear, but then slowly I came back to normal life. It has been 4 years since this incident. I am married, but even today, if I see a rat, I cannot forget that incident. But nothing like this ever happened to me again. But what happened was something I had not even imagined. After some time when I passed by that road, I came to know that Suman's mother is also admitted in the hospital due to some serious illness. Suman and her father have gone completely mad. I was very sad to hear this, but even today, I thank God that He sent me into this world as a healthy person and showed me the ways to live life. My life is going well now. Everything is fine by the grace of God. My husband is a very good person. My mother also lives with us. After that day, I was living my life very scared, but God gradually changed my life completely. When I met the boy whose wife I am now, my husband is also a tuition teacher, and he also has a good job in school. He liked me, he sent a proposal to my house, and in this way we both got married, and he said that he would give place to my mother in his house, like his mother because he did not have parents, so he considered my mother as his mother. Even today, I am very scared of people like Suman and her father, but by the grace of God, I am slowly forgetting everything. Friends, I hope you liked our story. If you liked the story, then like the video. If you are new to the channel, then subscribe to the channel. And yes, press the notification bell so that you get the next update first.